Hello. How do you like my new and improved flashlight PNG? I went ahead and changed the other one up because it wasn't that good. Now it's good though. Just changed a few things, polished it, made it like the other one. As in, good. But yeah, you know what's happening. You read the title. You can kind of expect what's going down. However, this time I have a lot of creepypastas to read to you. And some of them are good, but most of them are bad. Most of them are either poorly written or have just aged poorly. Which is, you know, the whole point of me reading them is 'cause they're bad. But some of them aren't, which is, you know, I guess we're incorporating a little bit of grab bag into the mix. Not too much, but still. I would tell you when the good ones come up, though. I mean, I feel like we don't really have to waste too much more time. I think we should just get into it. Now, I picked a really good one for you first. This one's great. And why is there a voice chat that I'm not even in showing up? Awesome. Go away. Alright, let me prepare the sounds, the soundscape. This is man, door, hand, book, car, door. Man and girl go out to drive under moonlight. They stop at side. They stop at. Oh no, my chair's squeaking. Man and girl go out to drive under moonlight. They stop at a side of road. He turned to his girl and say, "Baby, I love you very much." "What is it, honey?" "Our car is broken down. I think the engine is broken. I'll walk and get us some more fuel." "Okay, I'll stay here and look after our stereo. There have been news reports of stereos being stolen." "Good idea. Keep the doors locked no matter what." "I love you, sweaty." So the guy left to get full for the car. After 2 hours, the girls say, "Where is my baby? He was supposed to be back by now." Then the girl hear a scratching sound and voice say, "Let me in." The girl doesn't do it, and then after a while she goes to sleep. The next morning, she wakes up and finds her boyfriend still not there. She gets out to check, and man door hand hook. She gets out to check, and man door hand hook car door. Oh my god, that's so hard to read. Oh my gosh. Whew. I need to catch my breath. That was insane. Really good though. Give me like 5 seconds, chat. Alright, oh my god, it's so bad. No, hold on. I'm trying to sneakily put WD-40 in my chair, but it's just not working. Give me like another 5 seconds. It's just not working. I don't even care anymore. That's really annoying. Wait. No, I fixed it. Okay. Whew. Now my hands smell like grease. But that's the price you have to pay. Doesn't squeak that loud still. I don't want any squeak. I want the focus to be on my voice and nothing else. Anyway, now that that fiasco is over, I have a full immersion. Yeah, exactly. My knees need that so bad. Alright, I have got a nice selection for you guys. I have a few compilation stories, I guess, or a few groups of stories along a certain niche that I would like to, you know, do all at once so I don't have to feature them in another episode. Kind of keeps my thumbnails concise too. Let's see. We're going to be reading a few stories about the Tales doll. And I'd like to start with the first story. Let me get this voice chat out of the way. Really annoying. Tails Doll Curse. Gil and his friend Noah were looking for games for their Sega Saturn at EB Games when they came across Sonic R. Gil was going to ask how much it was, but when he got to the counter, the salesperson said for them to take the game for free and get out. When Noah heard the salesperson say, "Take the game with you," he dropped the games he was looking at and ran over to Gil. "Did he say we could have the game for free?" he asked. Gil was going to shake his head no when the salesperson said yes. Noah grabbed Gil by his arm and the game and pulled... What? Noah grabbed Gil by his arm and the game and pulled them out of the store and to his house. When they got to Noah's house, Noah got his Sega Saturn and Sonic R and put the game in. When the game started, they didn't see Sonic or Knuckles. They only saw what looked like Tails. Noah thought that it was just a glitch or that someone hacked it, but Gil knew it was more than just a glitch or a hacked game. Much more evil. The first thing they noticed when Noah started the first race was that the track was full dark red and black, and the music that was playing was "Can You Feel the Sunshine?" but played backwards. Noah thought that was a hack, but Gil thought the game was haunted. He didn't think that their copy was the only haunted version of the game. He thought all the copies were haunted by Tails. When Noah beat the first race, he unlocked Supersonic. Gil knew that Noah didn't get all 7 Chaos Emeralds, but Noah didn't question how he got him. But he did stand up and cheer for himself. "How did you unlock him so quickly?" asked Gil. "I don't know," Noah screamed excitedly. "Why are you questioning it, Gil?" "Something feels weird about this game," Gil said. "The game feels haunted or something." "You've been watching too many horror movies," Noah said. "You know I don't watch that stuff, Noah," Gil said. Noah finished his second race with Supersonic when the game said a challenger was approaching. When the challenger approaching screen faded away, the screen faded into black and stayed black for about 2 minutes. It then cut to a picture of Sonic being violently attacked by what looked to be a stuffed animal version of Tails with a very loud screaming and laughter for a split second. Then it went to the race. When the race started, Supersonic was standing on the track by himself after the "Ready, Set, Go" was said. Supersonic started to move all by himself. Gil looked over to Noah and saw that his hands weren't on the controller. As soon as Supersonic crossed the finish line, Noah was able to control him, and what looked like Tails was right behind him. When Supersonic and Tails crossed the finish line, it looked like Tails had won, but it said Supersonic won. That's when it said they unlocked the Tails doll and the Tails doll curse. When this happened, Noah and Gil both looked very confused. "Is that a letter?" Noah asked. And all Gil could do was nod his head. Noah went to play as the Tails doll when the letter opened up. "Whatever you do, don't read that letter," Gil warned Noah. But Noah didn't listen and read it anyway. What it read was "Can You Feel the Sunshine" lyrics backwards. When Noah was done, the TV started to vibrate. Noah took a hammer and started to hit the TV with it. The TV stopped vibrating. "I stopped the TV from vibrating," Noah said. "Yes, but now how do we play the game?" Gil said. "I have the TV in my room," Noah said as he unplugged the system from the now broken TV and wall. "You do know that your mom and dad are going to kill you for breaking the TV," Gil said. "I know," Noah said, "but it was worth it." They then went upstairs to Noah's bedroom. When they got to Noah's bedroom, the broken TV started to vibrate again, and then the Tails doll came out. Noah and Gil were now playing a different game because of what happened. They were playing Sonic Adventure 2 on the Sega Dreamcast when the doorbell rang. Noah and Gil went to answer the door. When they opened it, no one was there. Noah closed the door when the doorbell rang again. Noah opened the door and no one was there. He closed the door but kept his hands on the doorknob. The doorbell rang again, and Noah opened the door as fast as he could, but no one was there. The only thing that was there was a Tails doll. Noah brought it inside the house and washed what looked like blood off of it in the kitchen sink. When he washed the blood off, he sat it up in front of a couple of dishes to dry and went upstairs. That's when the Tails doll stood up and flew off the counter and onto the floor. He then walked to the stairs and he flew up them. Then he went to Noah's bedroom. Gil then felt like they were being watched by something evil. Hey Noah, do you feel like we're being watched? Gil asked Noah. Are you sure you don't watch horror movies? Noah asked Gil. Of course I'm sure, Gil said. I have to go to the bathroom, Gil said. As he was walking to the bathroom, he saw something out of the corner of his eye. It looked like a Tails doll, so he turned toward his left and didn't see anything. He looked to his right and didn't see anything either. He thought that it was his imagination and went to the bathroom. When he was going back to the bedroom, he saw something move, so he went to go see what it was. He then saw it move again and walk towards it. Gil saw the Tails doll and walked over to pick it up and bring it to the room. When he brought it up and showed Noah it, Noah asked Gil, "Where did you find it?" "I found it by the stairs," Gil said. "I thought I left it in the kitchen." "Anyway, let's play Sonic R again," Noah said. "Don't you remember what happened before?" said Gil. "Yeah, so?" Noah said. "So do you want to kill your TV too?" Gil said. "That was a freak accident," Noah said as he put the game in the Sega Saturn. He then played the tag game as the Tails doll, and as soon as he tagged the last person, the Tails doll that was in the room came to life. Noah and Gil both stood up and walked towards the door. Noah opened it and they both ran as fast as they could down the stairs and almost got to the front door when the Tails doll fell in front of them and killed Noah with his razor-sharp claws. This made Gil very angry, and he grabbed a baseball bat and started to swing at the Tails doll, each hit missing. He swung it one last time before the Tails doll caught it and broke it. Gil then stepped on its head and ran to the kitchen to get one of the kitchen knives and swung at the doll again. The Tails doll caught it again and killed Gil. The Tails doll went back up into the upstairs TV. The police then came to the house because the neighbors called, saying that they heard a lot of noise coming from Noah's house. But when they got there, Noah and Gil were both upstairs in Noah's bedroom. One of the police officers took the Sega Saturn to the station, and his partner said that there was no murder weapon. That was really bad. That was kind of outrageously bad. I didn't really think... You know, I remember it being scarier when I was young, but... Wow, that's bad. I mean, I guess that's what happens when you're... What, 7, reading a creepypasta for the first time. Yeah, absolute dumpster fire. Kind of just no coherent storyline, no consistency. It's old, you know. And it's scary because they die, I guess. So, you know, make of that what you will. I've got another Tails doll story for you. It's quite a bit shorter, but I thought I'd include it. A lot of edgy stuff, exactly. It's blood and killing, and the police show up. This is... Wait. This is Tails doll. My story. After I got home from work, I thought I'd buy a game for my son. He was into the Mario, Sonic, and wow, this is loud. Tails doll, my story. After I got home from work, I thought I'd buy a game for my son. He was into the Mario, Sonic, and Donkey Kong type stuff, so I got him a game I don't think he's ever played. It was Sonic R. It was a racing game, as I heard, and at the time it was pretty new. I raced home to give him the present and kissed my wife on the cheek. I held her, and she was happy for me giving him a present. The excitement filled his eyes, and I could tell he couldn't wait to play it. He went back to his room, and I was right behind him to play it with him. A couple of days passed, and he told me he was almost done with the game. I watched him beat the last boss, and he roared in excitement as he beat it. I felt good for him, patted his head, and asked how it was. The peculiar thing was, as I did so, I looked at the credit screen and pointed and said, "What's that?" He said it was the Tails doll. I asked what the Tails doll was. He just said it was the Tails doll again. I obviously facepalmed and ignored the scenery. I called for him to get in bed, and as he was sleeping, the curiosity got the best of me. I went into his room, very quietly turned the volume down on the TV, and was ready to play some Sonic R. Knowing he already beat the game, I decided to play it again through watching him earlier. I noticed you could play as Tails doll. Knowing that was the main reason I wanted to play this game, I chose him to tag up with some of the gang. It was pretty fun actually, until I tagged him up with Sonic. Right when I hit that button, my whole life changed. My life was in the palm of its hand. It was all calm at first, I must say. The screen shut off along with the game system. I let things be and went to bed with my wife. She grasped onto me as I did to her, falling into a deep sleep. At around 2 a.m., I started hearing thumps on my door. Keeping it shut and knowing my son could get the game himself, I just said, "Stop, go back to bed." The thumping kept happening. I got very annoyed and noticed as I got up that there was a little shadow coming from under my door. Nothing at all compared to a regular human-sized shadow. I kind of started freaking out. The word Tails kept popping up in my mind. I started to slowly open the door and heard these very faint words I will never forget again. "You are coming with me forever." It was a doll, an evil, blood-covered, possessed little doll. It was from the game. It had to be. It looked just like it. I screamed, waking the whole house as it started crawling to my toes. Blood was all over the floor, and to this day my feet ache and are sore. It was growling very aggressively, and as my screaming got louder, my wife called the police. It scattered across the floor, running from me. Its screech was awful. It left a trail of my blood behind it. It said it has what it needs, knowing it can't finish its job tonight. Ever since that day, I am afraid to go to sleep at night. My sleeping patterns are scattered apart. I go to sleep at around 6 a.m. and wake up at around 8 p.m. to start my day. Same. I know this may sound fake, but it isn't. I swear to this very day, I'm shocked to even think about falling asleep at nighttime. Ah! So scary. It's so bad. That's okay, you know. That's typical for the old pastas. It's not common that they age very well. Usually it's the visage that ages the best. You know, like Jeff the Killer. Jeff the Killer is a shit pasta. Like, don't get me wrong. That sucked. But the image is just so scary. Like, back when I was a kid, I think the image was just about the scariest part of the story. So, you know, things like that, I feel, are what gain the most amount of popularity. And, you know, Tails doll is a very recognizable design. It's easy to put blood splatter all over him and call it a creepypasta. Same with Sonic. That's why it works so well, because it's a character you know being, oh, twisted and evil and fucked up. But when the story sucks, then, you know, what's the point? With that, I have just one more Tails doll story to share with you. This one is a bit more popular, I guess you could say. Not to say it's good or better, but it's one of those pastas that kind of garnered one of those reputations that kind of stuck. This is a close encounter with the Tails doll. One late afternoon, I invited some of my friends to play Sonic R. Here, actually, wait, I want to respond to this. It's funny because the images are usually stolen. That's true. Jeff the Killer wasn't an image made for the creepypasta. It was just some random scary image found on a Japanese image forum that they took, and they, you know, oh, wouldn't it be funny if, like, this guy was a scary guy who, like, told you not to go to sleep, or to go to sleep and then murders you? And I mean, stuff like Sonic.exe, it's just Sonic, but with black eyes and red dots where they're supposed to be, and blood trickling down his eyes. Ah, scary! What I did like about the Tails doll is that, you know, there would at least be some form of... Well, I mean, I guess that could be said for every pasta. They would have people who would draw fan art of them, and then those pieces of art would go on to become some of the most notorious pieces of art. Here, give me like 5 seconds to pull this up. From here, this one right here, this was some of the scariest stuff ever. This image was terrifying. It's so scary, and it's such a good image, but the pastas are just so bad. It's like, what's the point, you know? I mean, they were written by kids, right? I mean, yeah, for the most part, most of them were written by kids or teenagers. I don't think most of these old or classic pastas were ever written by anyone who was past high school. Except maybe... maybe Blood Whistle. But only just because of the vocabulary that the author uses in the Blood Whistle. That kind of makes me think that. However, the story still sucks. Don't get me wrong. Just because the writer is better at writing and using words and probably at using a thesaurus doesn't mean the story's good. Anyway, can't watch the stream because I have to go to work. It's okay. I mean, these VODs are always posted to my channel afterward. You can just find them in the live stream section, or there's a playlist that, you know, has all my live streams in it. If you want to go watch it again, and I always make sure to timestamp my my streams just so that anyone who missed it can go back and watch it again. You know, I try my best. But yeah, I got a little sidetracked. It's time for me to read you. I need to put my mic closer to me. I need to move my keyboard and stuff. This is a close encounter with the Tails doll. One late afternoon, I invited some of my friends to play Sonic R. As we turned on the Sega Saturn, As we turned on the Sega Saturn, we were excited for our racing tournament. As we were at the character select screen, I chose the Tails doll for humor. Most of my friends were laughing as they chose Metal Sonic, Metal Knuckles, Mecha Eggman, and Super Sonic. Later, I won all the races since I was am expert at this game. We realized time flew by, so my friends left. I still felt like playing video games, so I inserted my Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing disc into my PlayStation 3. This is great! Wow, this post is awesome! I still felt like playing video games, so I inserted my Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing disc into my PS3. Me and my friends played a few races online, and a message popped up to my screen coming from a user called Tails Doll. I opened it, and it said, "Thank you." For what? I sent him a message back to this user. Tails Doll then sent another message saying, "You won first place with the Tails Doll. I was watching you." I got freaked out for a second, thinking something was watching over us as we were playing Sonic R. Another message from Tails Doll saying, "Can you feel the sunshine?" And sent me a friend request, but I didn't accept it because I don't know who this guy is. I sent all my friends a message saying, "Did you see anybody watching us?" Because I got sent a message from a user called Tails Doll saying he watched me win first place with the Tails Doll. My friends sent back messages saying they don't know, and one with a emoticon, surprised emoticon. How do I say capital O period capital O? I searched Tails Doll's profile, but it said the profile didn't exist. I immediately turned off my PlayStation 3 and used my laptop to go to the PSN forums. I made a thread about my message encounter with the Tails Doll. Users were replying they also reported getting messages after playing Sonic R with Tails Doll. Common occurrence? An administrator deleted the thread, calling it nonsense. It was 10 p.m., so I went to the bedroom, turned off the lights, and slept. We're about like halfway through, or yeah, just about maybe a third of the way through. This already, oh my god, I can taste the filth. Oh, it just reeks of elementary school writing. But that's like the best part. That's the best part of it. These other PSN members were saying how they also decided to play Sonic R for some random reason and play as specifically as the Tails Doll just recently. And then also went on to play something else and get a message from the Tails Doll. Interesting. Anyway, when I woke up the next morning, I found a little paper saying, "Dear Richard, I am going to kill your friends to show them that they are fools. Sincerely, the doll." There was a little blood stain where the doll was red. I freaked out and threw it in the trash and had a 1,000-mile stare until I got to school. I ran inside the classroom and screamed to my friends that they will be killed. The teacher thought I was the class clown. The teacher thought I was the class clown, and I punished me with lunch detention for today. At lunch detention, one of my peers said that they heard of the Tails Doll after I told them my encounter with it. What made me get chills in my spine is that he told me I'm the Tails Doll's vessel, meaning that I pleased the Tails Doll by playing as him in Sonic R. The moment after he said that, the fire alarm rang, and we evacuated the school. Smoke was coming from the 3rd floor, and it was a real fire. It was coming from my classroom. I came home early due to the fire. I told my parents about the fire, but not the Tails Doll. My father told me that my uncle and my cousins are coming. Luckily, my uncle was a retired veteran, so I might have some protection from the Tails Doll for now. A few hours later, I told my cousins the entire story, and they didn't believe me, saying that it was a good, scary story, but this is reality. Suddenly, my cell phone was ringing, and it was my friend saying he was having a party. I got permission from my parents and I headed off to my friend's house. As I kind of want to just mention the fact that this guy is going all over the place. Their school caught on fire, so we went home early. As soon as he got home early, oh, guess who's coming over? My cousin and my uncle, who's also a retired veteran. So I'll be safe. Oh, hey, my friend just invited me to a party. I guess I'll go. Despite the fact my cousins just arrived and my uncle. As I got there, we had a great time fooling around, eating like hell, and watching fights of drunk men. After a while, a doorbell rang. The music was so loud we couldn't hear it. So the doorbell rang continuously until I noticed the sounds and opened it. It was my older brother, and so he joined the party. I had a sleepover at my friend's house since it was too late to go home. I woke up at 5 a.m. that morning and found a doll that looks like the Tails doll from Sonic R. Since I find no interest in dolls, I gave it to my little sister when I got home. My guard was down, thinking that the doll conspiracy was finally over. I read my dad's newspaper and I jumped out of my chair when I saw the headline. It read, "Fire started in Eisenhower Middle School by unknown entity, 3 injured." This unknown entity sounded like the Tails doll and I became paranoid once again. I decided to be a temporary paperboy to end my boredom after breakfast. So he's a middle schooler. Good to know. Wait, hold on. I decided to be a temporary paperboy to end my boredom after breakfast? Your friends just died. You just figured out your friends died. Oh shit, I'm so bored. I should become a paperboy. What is happening? Oh, it's so bad. An hour later, all the papers were delivered. An hour later, all the papers were delivered, and the days after were quite casual with no school. As I checked the mailbox for letters from my classmates, I stumbled upon a yellow envelope, which is quite unusual. I ripped it open with curiosity, and it was from your secret killer. It read, "My dear friend, I know where you live. I will not kill your friends, but burn their houses instead, for even more suffering. Will you play with me?" I ran to the nearest trash can and threw it away, and I attempted to clear my mind. So wait, okay, I think I misread. No, yeah, it said 3 injured, not 3 dead. I totally misread in my head. I thought his friends died. They're not dead yet. Still, I find that kind of switch up really funny. Late that night, several fire trucks came to several houses, and I realized that letter was actually telling the truth for once. School reopened the next day, and what happened last night made it to Fox News that morning. As I entered the classroom when I came to school, everybody was paranoid just like me. And when school was over, as I walked home, I found a paper saying, "I will see you, Richard," on the sidewalk. Then I believed this Tails doll was actually real. I ran as fast as I can. When I stopped, I saw fresh blood dripping down a storm drain. I suddenly became sick and disgusted by this horrific sight. I ran even faster and was inside my home, and I locked the door tight. Something was poking on me, and so I turned around. Nothing was there. I ran upstairs to my room, and the door locked for no reason. Nothing was inside. The lights went out for no reason. I heard loud footsteps coming from the stairs. A red light appeared. The lights turned on. It was the Tails doll. It told me in a demonic voice, "I will show you the error of your ways." It took out a knife, but turned around and floated outside. I closed my eyes in horror as it was killing innocent people. It came back saying, "Are you happy? Knowing you can feel the sunshine?" It got a huge machete and was ready to kill me as well. I locked the door and dropped down from the window. With luck, I landed on the ground. What? With luck, I landed on the ground. Oh, well, thank goodness I didn't land in lava or in water. God forbid I start floating away. What? Where else are you supposed to land? Oh my gosh. It told me in a demonic voice, "I will show you." Oh, I already read that part. The Tails doll was furiously slashing at the door. A piece of the door flew out of the window, and the Tails doll's dark eyes were glaring at me. It threw the knife, and it almost hit me. It found a chainsaw and told me it was doing a sacrifice. I jumped through numerous fences, but it was too fast. It has a slight cut from the chainsaw. Dripping with blood, I ran through an alley and floated straight toward... What? Dripping with blood, I ran through an alley and floated straight toward, trying to slice me in two. Before it was going to kill me, I found a wooden cross and shoved it in front of him. He burned like it was a bomb and exploded. I limped my way back home with a chainsaw and told my siblings an unbelievable story. Holy... Oh my god, it's just so bad. Oh... That was fun. I don't think I ever want to touch that story ever again. Oh my gosh, it's so dated. I need to take a moment to breathe. That was insane. This reads like a poorly told story about an even more poorly told SCP, or poorly written, excuse me. Maybe I see it. You don't see too many poorly written SCPs, those get taken down. Well, I mean, to be fair, every bad creepypasta also gets taken down, so what's really the difference? Alright, chat, I am going to be right back. Give me maybe a few moments, and I will return. I'm also gonna play an ad, hope you guys don't mind. Hello, can you hear me? Whoop. I'm back. Now, I'm still kind of reeling from the pacing of the other one, but we have another compilation of 3 stories based off of the same franchise or the same character. Thank you for the subscribe. Ice cream so good. Thank you. Happy to have you here. If you're, here. However, I have decided to kind of space apart the compilation of stories with another one. Never do that again. Ice cream so good. Ice cream so good. Ice cream so good. Thank you for the rose. Anyway. Let me bring my headphone audio back in. Rain sounds. Ooh. This is the story of the McDonald's building. A few months ago, I was driving along the streets of Los Angeles with my friend Zach until we realized that they... Fail. Let's try that again. I need a sip of water. Between the break and now I ate food, so my voice is kind of starting to feel it. It's because I have dinner right in front of me and I can't eat it until I'm done with the stories. I'll take one more break later on, but you don't have to worry about that anytime soon. But I think it's time we get into the story of the McDonald's building. A few months ago, I was driving along the streets of Los Angeles with my friend Zach until we realized that they were... I did the same thing again. Here, do I say Los Angeles like Los Angeles, or do I say Los Angeles? Do I say it American or do I say it Mexicano? Would it be annoying if I said it with an accent? I like using my accents because I always feel egotistical saying I'm a linguist, but I love doing it. It's fun. Anyway, a few months ago, I was driving along the streets of Los Angeles with my friend Zach until we realized that we were running out of gas. We were trying to park somewhere to give our car a rest, but no luck. Then something caught our eyes. It was a McDonald's, with Ronald McDonald at the top of it. When we parked by the parking lot, we noticed that there was no customers inside. It was weird, considering that McDonald's is open 24/7. Also, there were no cars either. I could have swore that the Ronald McDonald statue turned its head against me. I told Zach about it, but when he saw it, it was in normal position. He told me I was going nuts, but the statue did turn its head. I then heard a faint laugh coming from the inside. We got terrified. I tried opening the door, but it was locked by a rusty master combination lock. We didn't have time to figure out the combination, so Zach pulled out his gun and shot at it. It was finally unlocked. I like the plot relevance of... Yeah, I have this gun, sure. So we opened the door to the inside. What we saw was so horrible. There were dead corpses all over the tables and chairs, and lots of blood in the soda machine. We puked in the trash can that was next to us. But before we did that, I saw mutilated arms and legs inside. which made us puke even more. How did this McDonald's end up like this? We were so hungry we ran into the kitchen. We were so hungry. Hello? Why'd the music stop? This is what I get for using a YouTube playlist, by the way. I'll rant about that later. We were so hungry, so we ran into the kitchen. We were so hungry, so we ran into the kitchen. There were fries and a few burgers. I thought we finally found food, until we saw more corpses. What's going on? I just closed this tab, just so that the music would work. Alright, whatever. This time they had no eyeballs. Juts, blood, coming from the sockets. Their stomachs have been ripped open with the organs ripped out. I tried ignoring them, but they still bother me. I didn't even have time to eat fries. We tried escaping through the main door, but it mysteriously locked by itself. We were now prisoners inside the building. We got scared just by staring at the corpses. Zach and I spit it up, trying to look for an exit. He went to a door that was covered in oil. I didn't want to enter with him, because I felt that danger was lurking behind the door. That's when I saw a small bomb in one of the dining tables. I picked up, fused with my lighter, and placed in the door. After 10 seconds, it finally exploded. I was free to go wherever I want. I tried calling him to come back, but he still didn't answer. I filled up my car with my backup gas supply that I stored in the trunk. I waited for him to go back to the car with me. It was now 7 p.m. That's when I saw a tall figure coming from the door with a chainsaw. I drove away as fast as I could. I managed to escape to my house. Zach never came back at all. 2 days later, I received a newspaper with the most disturbing headline of all. It said, 2 boys went to an abandoned McDonald's restaurant in the far side of Los Angeles. One managed to get away, with the other one nowhere in sight. Police are still trying to locate the man, but they never found proof. Then they mysteriously disappeared by entering a oil-covered door. What was behind that door? How did they all went missing? I hope someone with this mystery anytime soon. And who is the strange figure? I want, before I do any ranting afterward, I just want to let you know that this was written by someone named, this pasta is credited to Slender Mario. That is one of the greatest usernames I think I've ever heard in my entire life. How do I get people to take my story seriously? Ah, I know. I'll name myself Slender Mario. This is amazing. Is this a shitpost? I can't even tell. There are some pastas where it's so unclear to me whether or not it's a troll or genuine attempt that sometimes you kind of just have to assume. That one, I think, because I think someone smart enough would be able to plant all of those spelling and grammar mistakes by themselves, but it was so infrequent, I think it had to have been genuine. There's no other explanation. I can't find... Well, I don't know, because their username is Slender Mario. I can't take that seriously. I want to take a moment just to show you guys this this image that is attached with the creepypasta, and I want you to take a look. This is their proof. This is their irrefutable proof of what happened. Look at the long ass headline. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Yeah, it's amazing. Wow. Newspaper. just say newspaper. Oh wow, that's amazing. Newspaper. I want to take a moment just to flex my own kind of graphical prowess by finding this one thing. Let me see if I can find it. Is it in my Photoshop folder? Yes, there it is. Here you go. Oop, that's too big. This was a school. Oh shit. There we go. This was a school assignment I had to make a newspaper article for, based on a story of our choosing. So I chose Frankenstein, which was fun. And I got to do, you know, all those stuff on the side, given the time span. This was in a time where newspapers didn't exist, so, you know, I had to really stretch the imagination of this, but I thought it was fun. There's this, or there's a clean version, you know, without the effects and stuff. This is how you do a newspaper article. This is how you do a fake newspaper. This is not how you do a fake newspaper. Sorry, enough flexing, I guess. Let me pause the music real quick. All right. On to the compilation of 3. These are going to be, let me get the voice chat out of the way again, Mario-themed creepypastas. Now, I did one of these last time. I did the blood whistle. However, there's more Mario creepypastas than just the blood whistle. So I thought I would, you know, take a moment to read some of those, because it's fun. This is Mario, all caps Mario. So it all happened tonight of all nights. I was bored, obviously contemplating what I thought I could do to waste the time as I chatted with the people in hash SMWC. We had good times and shared a few laughs together. Out of boredom, I decided to patrol the hacks waiting to be moderated section. Seems that we had quite a bit, 33 if I recall correctly. The first few hacks I saw when I sorted them out by date were a couple of really horrible ones with bad screenshots to boot. I naturally showed these hacks to the Centralites currently on hash SMWC. We were laughing at how bad some of them were. But then I got to a hack called Mario. Just that, nothing more, nothing less. The description seemed quite odd, as if some Japanese hacker was trying to translate the original plot of Super Mario World and failing horribly. I showed this to Kieran, and he started laughing at it. It read as follows. As you play the role of Super Mario Plumber, verify that you are beautiful Princess Toad. Again, Bowser kidnapping the evil king. It is your job to save her. This hack includes 6 levels of very long. Princess Toad. Yeah, Princess Toadstool. Haha, I get the joke. Do you get the joke? Not the joke, the mistranslation. You know, I didn't even realize that until I just read it after forever, that It is Princess Toadstool, just translated and translated poorly. I simply dismissed this as someone trying to act Japanese and release a crappy hack with some edits. That's what I thought it was at first. Curiosity got the better of me. I decided to download the hack. I didn't know what I was in for, since the single screenshot of it was just the title screen with nothing but the letters Mario from Super Mario World's title screen. I thought it was a little odd how there were no dates or anything either, as hackers usually place their names and dates in the title to mark when the project was started. So when I opened the hack, I was greeted by two files. One called 3007014, a simple .text file that was 27 kilobytes in size, and the IPS file, simply named Mario. For some odd reason, I wanted to see what the author of the hack had to say, but when I opened the hack in Notepad, there was nothing but indistinguishable symbols and letters and punctuation. Sort of like how when you open a ROM in a text editor like Notepad. Seems like the author just completely copied his ROM to .text form, though I could be wrong. Taking a closer look at the top of the text file, mixed in with the gibberish, I found the only thing that looked like English there. Here is a piece of what I found. Jarbled text, JFIFHHY Thorn, one find me, find me, find me, find me, find me, find me. YUC garbled letters. To be honest, I didn't know what to make of this. I eventually decided it was simply to waste some of my time by making me find some text in the gibberish file that, I'm willing to bet, no one will ever be able to make sense of. I decided that because my interest was growing steadily, I would start looking through my horribly disorganized download folder for a copy of a clean ROM, which I had downloaded a great deal of time before the events of tonight unfolded, and an IPS patcher. Of course, my choice for the job was Lunar IPS, so I then proceeded to move the ROM and IPS patcher to the folder with the hack. I patched the ROM, not knowing what to expect next, and I quickly hurried to drag it to ZSNES and play what I thought was to be terrible in the form of a ROM image. I noticed on boot up that the author had taken the time to change the header of this hack. Instead of the usual Super Mario World you would see when booting up a ROM in ZSNES, just had the letters Mario there again. At this point, I gained a little hope, because normally people who do horrible half-assed edits to the ROM generally don't know enough to change a header. Ooh, excuse me. I gained a little hope. At this point, I gained a little hope, because normally people who do horrible half-assed edits to the ROM generally don't know enough to change a header title. I thought I wasn't wasting my time with this, and my mood brightened slightly at the thought of seeing what the author had to offer in his interesting little hack. The title screen loaded exactly like it would with Super Mario World, except it had just Mario on the title, like I'd mentioned earlier. Something else had grabbed my interest, more so than the unusual absence of Layer 3 tiles on the screen title. On the title screen. What is going on? It's happening again. I'm losing my ability to read. Something else had grabbed my interest, more so than the unusual absence of Layer 3 tiles on the title screen. Mario's normal, bright, colored, and happy palette. Mario's normal, bright, colored, and happy palette seemed, how can I put it, dull. What was once violet-like, now, what? What was once violet-like red now seemed like gray with a slight red tint to it. And I'm fairly sure his pants were looking more gray than blue too. I thought this was strange, and I wondered why he had decided to give Mario such a dull palette. Regardless as to what his intentions were, I felt that something was wrong. Not in the sense that the palette was slightly bad, but that the hack was empty, like something had happened. Upon pressing start and selecting a new file, like a lot of other countless Mario hacks I have played in the past, There was some sort of intro screen that basically described the entirety of the plot in a short paragraph, just small enough to fit in a small black box. I began reading, and for the most part, the message stayed the same, but there was one key factor that made this interesting. Apparently the main antagonist of this hack wasn't Bowser at all. It was Mario? The message read as follows. Welcome. This is Dinosaur Land. In this strange land, we find that the Princess Toadstool is missing again. Looks like Mario is at it again. What the... This wasn't the original message from Super Mario World, I thought to myself. Normally I wouldn't think anything of this, seeing as how over my nearly 2 years of SMW Central, I've played countless hacks and have seen many different intro messages, but this one really stuck out. At this point, I definitely knew there was something odd about this hack. Upon letting the intro level music play, I pressed the start button on my controller to finally get to the overworld and began my journey into this unknown hack. Upon entering the overworld, everything seemed normal. Same old paths, same old music, but the level names were different. Instead of Yoshi's house like it always has been every time I've played Super Mario World, it was now simply just Yoshi's. The house part was gone. I thought this was strange, and I began to lose hope in the hack because it had seemed like barely anything had changed at all from the original. I was hoping to see something new. Well, unlucky for me, I got my wish, as you'll see when you read on. I decided to enter the level out of curiosity. When I entered, the whole house that's normally there was gone. No more smoke, no more fire, no more little birdies, no more treehouse. All that was left was the message box. I decided to hit it. Upon opening, the message I expected to be there was replaced with what seemed like binary code. A bunch of ones and zeros, signed Yoshi. Apparently it said notepad. At this point, I was on IRC telling everyone about how the hack was starting to weird me out, which yielded some sarcastic responses, but hey, I expected it. Anyways, after this, my interest level in the hack skyrocketed, and along with it, my paranoia. Oh boy, was I in for a fun surprise. So I decided to head left. Upon reaching what before was known as Yoshi's Island 1, the level was labeled Never Come Back. Now I thought things were going to be all Kaizo Death Trap, because generally that is what people name their levels in Kaizo hacks to make sure the player doesn't go there. To my surprise, it wasn't quite that way, though I wish that it had been. Upon entering level 105, I was greeted by the insanely loud clown car sound that Bowser's flying vehicle makes right before Peach falls out. Of course, with my headphones being moderately high, the sound scared the living shit out of me, which wouldn't have happened if I hadn't been so nervous beforehand. I decided at this time it would be best if I turned the volume on my headphones down, as to not get any more unpleasant surprises such as that one. When I entered the level, other than the music, everything seemed to be the same, except for the fact that the little Koopa that slides on the ledges wasn't there anymore. Nor was the Bonsai Bill. The Dragon Coin was still there, however, but for some odd reason I wasn't able to collect it, or rather, any Dragon Coins at all. The author made certain of that. I also noticed that there was a brown used block near the spot where the Bonsai Bill normally shows up. I can only assume that this was a revisit to the level after I'd beaten it, like I heard in some half-assed creepy stories in other Mario games. Now I was wondering why things were like this, making me wonder about the intro message. Had Mario done something previously to Dinosaur Land? Was this from Bowser's point of view? I quickly dismissed the latter option because it seemed kinda stupid. So that left me thinking that Mario at one point in time in the author's story did something. But what? What did Mario do? My mind was nothing but rushing thoughts at this point. However, I quickly dismissed them and ventured further into the level, only to find that basically all blocks had been hit. All coins collected, save for the Dragon Coins. Those were still there and unobtainable. That there were no enemies, and that I could no longer go down pipes. What kind of bullshit am I playing here? I kept thinking to myself. At this point, I felt uncomfortable. but I decided to keep venturing. Eventually, I came across a message box, which I wasn't surprised was still in the level. Being the idiot I am, I went and hit the box. Upon hitting it, I was greeted with the familiar black box once again. The message was edited, obviously. I'd figured that this was a given at this point. It read as follows. Point of advice, I hate you. Now I thought things were starting to get the vibe that the author was a twisted and warped individual, and that I was right about Mario having done something. At this point, I was basically rushing to get to the end of the level, so I just scurried by, and then came across another message box. However, this one was blank, with point of advice at the top and nothing else in it. I quickly disregarded it and headed off further to the right, hoping to free myself of the hell that was once level 105. Upon reaching the end, I saw a fire flower in the top block where the four-way block intersection used to be. However, it was too high for me to reach by normal means, so I just continued onward, like the blind, curious idiot I am would do. I finally beat the level, and as usual, the path to the Yellow Switch Palace was unlocked. I decided to head up the path that normally leads there, and I found that when I entered the main overworld, every other landmass and decoration besides the ghosts from the ghost houses and Yoshi's Island itself were gone. Nothing really changed at the Yellow Switch Palace except for the Switch message. All that changed was that Switch Palace was changed to Mario World. Boring. Anyway, just when I had thought I was done with this abomination that calls itself a hack, I found that Yoshi's Island 2 had also been edited. Oh joy, I thought to myself. Upon reaching Yoshi's Island 2, I found that it had been renamed to Yoshi's House, the original name of level 104. I decided to enter and found that the palette of the level had been altered, along with the background. They seemed to have been changed to the same palette as Yoshi's Island 3. You know, greenish tan and such, except the background was pushed down some and was now a rotting brown color, and the vegetation on the foreground was no longer present. I decided to explore the level a bit and came across the trail of Koopas that countless players have used a shell to rack up free one-ups with. I ignored them and I go see if any more of the level had changed, and eventually came across the question that... the question mark block that holds Yoshi, and decided to free him. Upon doing so, I got this message. Hooray! Thank you for rescuing me. My name is Yoshi. On my way to rescue my friends, Mario trapped me in that egg. This had me wondering what kind of sick and twisted hack I was playing. I had thoughts of all possible scenarios of Mario attacking Dinosaur Land horribly and causing irreversible damage. The author had me hooked with his sick little game, and like any other idiot, I took the bait and kept coming back for more. Somewhere not far off from the Yoshi question mark block, I found a message box in the same place I remember that it always had been. Though if I'd learned anything at all from playing this, it was that whatever was in that message box was not going to be even remotely normal in the slightest. This made me hesitant to hit it, but I ended up doing so anyways. I wanted to find out more. The message I was greeted with was as follows. But, is there anything I can do to change your mind? What the fuck? I thought to myself. What the hell did this even mean? Change my mind? What would I change my mind about anyway? Was this about Mario and whatever he did, and about how people were trying to convince him to stop? Was Yoshi talking to me through message boxes? Or was it about me? About me playing the hack, asking me as if the hack was trying to talk to me through message boxes. Either way, whether it was for more backstory on what Mario had done, or if it was questioning my decision to keep going, I decided to keep progressing, despite the obvious signs that I should have quit playing the hack a while ago. As I progressed further, I found that I was right. All vegetation was gone and nothing was left at all, save for a few enemies like chucks and moles and such. Even the pipes were gone. I came across another message box, like all the other times before. I decided to hit it. I was greeted with yet another cryptic message. Point of advice. This is the selfish way out. The selfish way out? What the hell? Was he calling me selfish for continuing to play the hack, despite the warnings? Had Mario made some kind of selfish decision that had only benefited him? Was Yoshi still trying to talk to me? What the hell was this guy trying to tell me? At this point, I was creeped out to the point that I was shaking slightly, a mix of anticipation, fear, and the fact that my room was terribly cold last night. I closed the message box and once again proceeded further. The area with the moles seemed the same, except for the fact that the block next to the vine block was gone, along with the happy clouds and dragon coin the vine allowed access to. This made me feel gloomy, to say the least. Not so much frightened as I was depressed. It's a feeling I couldn't really explain well. From this point on, it was basically just a big, empty stretch of land to the end of the level. I proceeded quickly. I wanted to get the fuck out of there, as I felt that I had spent enough time looking around. So me and Yoshi, I still had him at this time, opened up the next path on the overworld. It too had changed. What was once Yoshi's Island 3 now read as Yoshi's Island 7. Memories of Super Bobito World flooded my mind, how the levels would take giant leaps in number order, which made it seem ridiculous. Though at this time I didn't quite find it as humorous, due to common sense and obvious reasons explained earlier. I entered the level, and as I entered I was welcomed by a solid black background and a blue and gray colored floor. The place seemed frozen, lifeless and barren. There was nothing in the level at all, save for the goal point. Just a clear stretch of land with nothing else. I quickly lost interest and finished the level. It seemed like the most empty and creepy level in the game, though as you'll read on, it gets far worse. With the level beaten, a new path opened up. Yoshi's Island 4 was now just leave now. I hesitated as to whether I would stop playing, but my interest kept me going further. At this point, #SMWC was nothing but me posting findings and messages from the hack, so that others could experience what I was experiencing. The channel, sadly, was unusually inactive. It seemed like no one really cared or wasn't around. I felt alone. I proceeded into the level. For the most part, everything seemed the same, save for the fact that there was now no water at all to keep me from falling in pits without using Yoshi as a sacrifice. The level was also void of all enemies as well. Whenever I got to an area that seemed too far for me to jump, I found that I could just walk right across on the... Whenever I got to an area that seemed too far for me to jump, I found that I could just walk right across on the air, thus getting rid of the need to use Yoshi as a sacrifice. It's apparent that this hack wanted me to keep him. I could tell that much. I was able to get the pipe that usually leads to the exit level. I went in and found that the room was exactly the same, except everything in the right place and nothing edited, or so I thought. The message box once again broke the mood of that brief moment of relief I had experienced upon entering the pipe. You get it. You get if you cut the at the end. If you collect, you can. At this point, I was questioning whether... At this point, I was questioning whether I should keep going or... I'll get it eventually. At this point, I was questioning whether I should keep going to see how it ended or quit now while I still had a bit of common sense left. The message box was sort of indistinguishable, and I couldn't really make sense of it. For a moment, I tried to figure out what it meant, but eventually I just gave up and beat the level. I figured that box wasn't worth the time anyway. With the level beaten, the path to the first world castle opened, now renamed from number 1 Iggy's Castle to number 1 Go Back. I sure did feel welcome here. I decided to completely ignore the level name, as I just wanted to get this over with and to be done with it forever. What seemed like a normal castle intro was made especially creepy given the fact that I had to dismount Yoshi. I felt for the first time that I was actually abandoning him, and I wished I had taken him with me. The inside of the room of the castle looked strange. There was this darkish, bluish, greenish, black lava on the ceiling, and goal points that looked like pillars. Aside from that, next to each pillar there was an increasing amount of message boxes the further I got. The room was basically just a big hallway with no enemies or anything of the sort. Every message box I pressed gave me either a blank box with Yoshi's signature at the bottom, or the message that read as follows: "Don't you think you've caused enough trouble?" Another cryptic message. At this point I wasn't surprised, not in the slightest. Again, the thoughts in my head started circling, wondering what exactly Mario had done, why he was there, and why everything seemed to hate everything about him and wanted him gone forever. I was feeling more depressed than scared at this point, to be honest, and I had no idea what to expect next. I proceeded down the long hallway, checking message boxes filled with nothing but the same 2 messages over and over. It's like they were telling me to stop playing or something. Obviously, I ignored them and kept going. I eventually reached the end of the hallway. There was a door, which I entered. I was welcomed by nothing but a small section of land. The level was also auto-scrolling, so I figured that this must be the end, that the author wanted me to jump in this pit and commit suicide or something, thus ending my journey. I was wrong. The auto-scroll pushed me over the ledge and I was still walking, unfortunately. The whole level was nothing but a long stretch of invisible land to another small piece of land, just big enough for a boss door to fit. The auto-scroll came to a stop and I prepared for the worst. I gathered my composure, swallowed some of the spit in my mouth, and took a deep breath. I entered. Nothing but a normal Iggy boss. I felt cheated in a way, but I was happy to think that it was finally over. I defeated Iggy with 2 jumps effortlessly, which was actually the quickest I'd ever beaten him before. After he fell in the lava, the coarse, clear message popped up as usual. It ended and I was brought to the rescue egg scene, though instead of the usual message, I was shown something disturbing and vastly different, like a profile for the scene of a crime. It was as follows. Victim number 1. Eyeballs were unable to be found. The victim was found lying on her carpet. Causes of death unknown. Hand marks with unidentifiable fingerprints were found all over the corpse. What the fuck is wrong with this guy? I said as I read the disturbing message. I mean, it was a hack, but still. Who the hell was this victim? Why were her eyes gouged out? Just what could have made those unidentifiable fingerprints that were found on her body? Was this Mario's doing? Is this what the author was trying to tell me? And furthermore, was the girl Princess Toadstool? It took me a while. It took me a while to see if I read the message correctly. Then I proceeded outwards, wondering what would happen next since the main map was completely gone and there was no trace of it anywhere. To my surprise, it still showed the path marked for Donut Plains. The event tiles were still there, marking the path to the lone level on the giant map that was once the main world. It was still called Donut Plains 1. I thought we were finally done once more, but when I entered the level I could see that, like the previous times, I was once again wrong. Upon entering, I saw 2 message boxes. They were as follows. There's no way out of here. Fly away. I found it quite interesting that both message boxes were contradicting each other. One was telling me that there was no way out of this accursed hell, and the other was telling me that if I could fly away, I could be free. Though I saw no feather or enemies to grab one with. Was this telling me that I could either rise up and go to heaven or stay in hell forever, wallowing in despair? Did I need a cape to proceed? And what happens after this? Is the whole game like this? I began to create more thoughts in my head, trying to figure the message boxes out, but to no avail. I proceeded to walk to the right. I made a jump, but found that I was stuck in the area. There was an invisible wall, and I thought I'd hit a dead end when I landed. When I landed, I tried moving right again to see if there was any way to go on. All of a sudden, I heard the pipe sound and watched the pipe animation. Except there was no pipe present, so it looked quite odd. I was then taken to a level with a black background. There were stone blocks for ground and the small door. I was immediately given a mushroom to prevent me from entering it, so I proceeded further to see if there was anything else in the level. I found that the room was nothing but a long stretch of concrete blocks and doors that were too small for me to enter because of the mushroom I'd had. It's obvious that the author didn't want me going in through any of them, or I wouldn't have gotten the mushroom in the first place. As I proceeded, I found myself at a dead end. Since there was nothing left for me to look at, I tried to go right again. It worked. I went through the brick wall. It acted like a pipe. And Mario went through a pipe animation that looked like he was going into the darkness. I was then taken to a small room with what looked like a pit and a wall. I jumped down into the pit, seeing as how there was no other option. Though I found that the bottom of the pit was solid. I tried pressing down in a bunch of areas until I came across a pipe. Mario slowly did the pipe transition downwards off the screen. Expecting another level, I waited, but there was no more. Just a black screen. I was unable to continue, unable to pause or exit the level or move. There was nothing. Nothing at all. This was the video game representation of death. A crash. Mario had died. After playing, I think I finally understand what was happening. I believe Mario was atoning for his actions, eventually being plummeted into a hell that looked exactly like Yoshi's Island, where he was lost to the grip of death forever. He was finally done playing and quite relieved at that. The nightmare was over and activity on the IRC seemed to be back up again. I quickly shared my tales with the rest of #SMWC and typed this documentation of it. If you feel daring enough, you too can witness my tale firsthand. Remember guys, it's only a hack, it can't hurt you. Or can it? The aftermath. The hack, being the first of its kind to hit SMW Central, gained a lot of attention. Even the site's founder and administrator, Kieran, currently Kieran Menar, immediately recognized the text file that Adam mistook for .smc, converted into text as a JPEG file due to its header. He tried manually converting it back to a JPEG, but the result was barely viewable. The only recognizable part was the very top. He then continued to search Google for images with his attempted resolution. Whew, give me one more try. The only recognizable part was at the very top. He then continued searching Google for images with his attempt's resolution, 327 by 277 pixels, and the second result struck him as relevant. You can find Kieran's post here. His original attempt only displays a broken image now. This hack's novelty on SMW Central wore off, however, and it was removed from the hack database after having been accepted for being the first of its kind, a creepypasta hack. This is what the text file looks like converted back into a JPEG. Still a really creepy image in my opinion. Honestly, I don't think this is that poor of a creepypasta. I think that was fairly decent. Yeah, I found it enjoyable at the very least. However, it is, written in a way where, some things are kind of overdone. You can kind of tell a lot of the cliches are there, like, missing enemies or uninteractable objects. And just in general, the author's description of everything and, the questioning everything, like, was this Mario's doing? Or was it me? Was it me? Or was it Mario? And was that Princess Peach? The writing kind of gets a little annoying at some points, but I get it. Trying to insert some personality. I will say, though, that the image really still kind of holds up, and the creepypasta as a whole definitely, stays in that, just believable enough. And it was believable because the hack was posted to SMW Central. This is where the creepypasta was originally posted, and the original thread is still up. However, it's posted now as a creepypasta rather than like the original thread. And the game exists, which is awesome. Or was it Slender Mario? Ah! That one was longer than I expected. So I'm not too sure if I'll be able to do the third Mario creepypasta. I'm just gonna, you know, test the waters, make sure nothing is too long before I read it. Okay, this one's mostly images that takes up the length. Alright. Let's do the rest of the Mario creepypastas. Excuse me. This is the story of the Super Mario Massacre. One day when I was playing Super Mario Bros., something terrible happened. I will tell you the story. I was looking at my games one day and found a Super Mario Bros. Cartridge. I remember quitting this game years ago because I died so many times just on World 1-1. I grabbed it and put it in my NES. When I was playing it again, the first Goomba killed me. I got so upset. The next time I was able to jump over the Goomba, but then a random tank ran Mario over. Huh? I didn't remember this being in the original game. Then I avoided the tank, and then Barney the dinosaur came up to me with a chainsaw. He hit Mario with it, but surprisingly there was no blood. It just showed Mario's normal death screen in the game. I died over 200 times in World 1-1, but then I got to the flagpole. I jumped to it, but then Spider-Man grabbed Mario with his web and threw him backwards into the stage. It said game over again, but I restarted the level. When I jumped onto the first question block, the controller stopped working. Then Mario throws his hat off and talks about how tired he is of dying, and says that he will come after me. I was terrified now. Then my NES resets. I put my cartridge back and watched the TV. I turned on the news and the news lady says, a man has been killed by being jumped on. It sounded like that man was killed by Mario or something. I get a phone call right afterwards. I answer the phone and I say, hello? The answerer said, it's me, Mario. Are you ready to die? I was freaked out even more now. I hung up because I thought it was a prank call. Then when I looked out of my window, I saw a giant 8-bit Mario. He threw an 8-bit fireball at my house. It destroyed part of my house. The house rubble landed on me, and it really hurt. He thought I was crushed by the rubble and it was dead, but it just sprained my legs. I stayed under the rubble so Mario wouldn't see me. However, there was an opening to the rubble, and I could see what Mario was doing. He was jumping on my neighbors, which crushed them, and threw fireballs at others, which turned them into skeletons. After he killed my neighbors, he left my neighborhood. So 2 weeks after this event, my legs mostly healed and this massacre was on the news. I will never play the original Super Mario Bros. Again. Author's note, in real life I will still play Super Mario Bros. Forever, and I have beaten World 1-1 and the entire game before. That was great. That was awesome. Yeah, that one's a troll pasta for sure. It has to be, right? Barney and Spider-Man? You're joking. You jest, surely. Anyway. That one was bad. Awesome. Gone wrong. Best one so far. Sure. Now, I'm sure everyone knows about this creepypasta. Or I should say troll pasta, because that's what it is. It was never meant to be a serious pasta. It was supposed to have just about every cliche in the book. But everyone took it seriously because, you know, the writing was competent enough. It's just one of those cases. This is the story of I Hate You. This isn't one of those haunted game stories. At no point are you going to hear me claim something within the game spoke to me, reacted to my words, or forced me to punch myself repeatedly in the face. No, this isn't about a haunted game or a game doing something impossible, or even something it shouldn't have. This isn't about a glitch or a hidden satanic message, and at no time did I phone Nintendo headquarters, only to have my questions answered with hushed whispers or anguished screams. This story is about a game feature I don't think anyone else has unlocked. That's it. No ghosts, no conspiracies, just a secret we were all supposed to find but never did. Something that changes an entire generation's childhood and the very essence of a multi-billion-dollar franchise. This is about what I assume to be a previously undiscovered alternate ending of Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo. In 1996, I received my first computer as a birthday gift. I'd been on the internet before and had used computers before, but it had always been in school or at a friend's house. This one was mine. All mine. I explored the crude prehistoric web of the time with great interest. I downloaded all sorts of pornography and even printed it out, which made absolutely no sense. I also pirated media like a madman. Music, games, anything. This was where I first discovered Mario World. I never had a Super Nintendo as a little kid, so it was all new to me. I downloaded tons of games along with the SNES emulator, but Mario World was my favorite. For over a decade, the same Mario World ROM was my time-wasting hobby. I played it over and over again, beating the game faster and faster until I began to lazily explore the worlds with no particular purpose. Game Genie codes helped immensely. I could turn off the timer and relive a particularly entertaining map for an hour as I waited for the download or any number of boring events. It was in this manner that I must have beaten and rebeaten the game thousands upon thousands of times. There was a comfort in the obsessive, compulsive behavior of this routine, but all of that was shattered when I saw the Blind Boo. The Blind Boo, as I referred to it, was hovering over the exit from the haunted sunken ship level later on in the game. I call it blind because it actually had no visible eyes. It was like someone had made a lazy ROM hack, but I knew from years upon years of experience that this was a normal game. The Blind Boo just hung there over the exit pipe, blocking it. I turned my back on it, but it didn't chase me. How could it? It didn't even see me. Then I noticed something else out of sorts. There was a key and a keyhole misplaced above the exit. Keys and keyholes... Here, give me 1 second, I have an idea. Perhaps I can do this. There we go. Put the screenshots behind me. There was a key and keyhole misplaced above the exit. The keys and keyholes as such are ways of ending a level in an alternate manner and discovering a secret area. Still, this didn't belong there and I knew it. For a moment, I considered the fact that I'd actually broken a ROM file from overuse. After taking a screenshot specifically to show all of you Mario Bros fans out there, I picked up the key and opened the door, figuring the game would seize up and I'd have to restart. Instead, it opened up a new path on the map selection screen. A whirlpool next to Bowser's already creepy head cave thing. I pressed the right arrow and moved on to the whirling drain. Yeah, this creepypasta is very image reliant. Give me a sec. Oh god, no. This didn't really strike me as odd, because if you're familiar with the Mario World game, there's an There's an area called Star Road that you may note has similar names. Just stuff like tubular and awesome. And all manner of dumb words and phrases. Most of the areas were called Vanilla Forest 1 and Donut Mountain 3 and all that. But there were maps with odd names like that. What did concern me, though, was Mario's expression. Surprise? Shock? Fear? I entered the map. Oddly enough, the whirlpool in the middle of a lake began with the standard castle entry animation. Mario walked up to a castle door. Mario walked up to a castle door, looked up, and went in. I could tell it was underwater, though, because of the bubbles that periodically emerged from the sprite's mouth and floated to the top of the screen. Inside the castle, it started to look more and more like I was, in fact, experiencing a glitch. There was no room to jump. No room to do anything but run left and right. I must have gone right for 10 to 20 minutes, just holding the B button and running along at full speed. After a while, I ran into 1 or 2 blind boos in the darkness above, then 3 or 4. Then the screen was full of them. They just kind of hung there, doing nothing. They wouldn't chase me if I turned my back. As with the previous blind boo, if I made any noise, like Mario's jump sound, they would just kind of shudder a bit, like they heard the sound of Mario's movements but couldn't do anything about it. Then something made me stop and turn the other way. Now I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that this map was designed specifically to screw with the player. Not because the giant bleeding bill was hemorrhaging profusely from its face, but because it was inescapable. There was literally no way to avoid without being killed by it. As you can clearly see above, that is, unless you're like me and you have the Game Genie cheats on hand, I switched on the code for permanent invincibility. I let the bleeding bill chase me for a while when I was invincible, just to get a good look at the thing. I stopped and killed it with my invulnerable touch. Only when I saw a message that hadn't been there when I passed before. I hate you. That kind of creeped me out, but on the other hand, it was kind of interesting because it meant this was definitely a map that was supposed to exist. There was some sort of plot element here, something undiscovered. What did it mean? Who hated me? King Koopa seemed the obvious answer, or maybe just the ghosts. When you're in a haunted castle that you found by way of a haunted ship, bloody-looking hate message isn't so unbelievable. I saw it again as I approached some giant boos. I was thankful that the blind boos ended at this point because the more I watched them shudder, the uneasier I felt, almost empathetic toward them, etc. The thankfulness ended when I turned my back on the giant boos and this happened. The giant boos with faces I hadn't seen before. They always looked mad at being awakened, angry that the fact you were invaded their haunted house across the Mario World instead. Mario World Island. I cannot. Take 2. Giant boos with faces I hadn't seen before. They always looked mad at being awakened, angry that you were invading their haunted houses across the Mario World Island. This was different. And they looked gleeful, demented. I could see right down their throats, which seemed odd given the lack of detail their mouths usually displayed. And yes, of course I'm going to address the message you saw in the picture. Why won't you die? I don't know why. Am I supposed to? Who's asking? I let the giant boos touch me and they died like the bleeding bills, of which I had encountered 2. Despite any attempt to scare the player, I knew that being invincible meant invincible no matter what they threw at me. After a while running down this strange claustrophobic corridor with no more eventful things happening, I came to a room with an exit pipe. Taking the pipe downward, I came out the other end and dropped into a room filled with water. The water made sense, this being a sunken castle beneath a whirlpool and all. I was rewarded for my troubles with a question mark block that released a mushroom for me. I could have easily done this with a cheat code, but the thought had escaped me as I faced all these new and strange sights. The first creatures I encountered in the underwater portion of the castle were thwomps. Unless you've been living under a rock since the mid-80s, you know thwomps are stone-like square creatures that hang from the ceiling and fall whenever you come near. They try to crush you, essentially. Well, these thwomps, lined up in a tight row, dropped repeatedly and randomly with no real trigger or any sense of logic. They would just wait or drop whenever they seemed to feel like it. It also looked like these thwomps had been very successful thwomps. More cartoony blood. This was getting pretty unusual for the Mario Bros. Franchise, which I hadn't recalled seeing blood in at all. Now, I'd seen it used 3 times, the bloody bills, the messages, and these perpetually smashing, grinding thwomps who were working their victims, into pulp. Forever. In the hampering effects of the water, I walked slowly under these things, making sure every single one touched me and died. There were almost 30 of them in a row. The sight of them mindlessly crushing over and over again just made me hate them with an unsettling intensity. What's weird is that the blood caused Mario to slide as if he were on an ice level. After walking through that gauntlet of depravity, I swam into a more open area that was filled with spikes on the floor and ceiling. It was difficult to swim in this manner without touching the spikes, but since I was still invincible, I didn't think much of it. I avoided them more for fun than out of any sense I'd be damaged. It stopped being fun really fast, though. Now I knew some of what was going on. The bloody mess the thwomps were unendingly spattering, it was other Marios. Past Marios that had tried to traverse this level and failed. I had to admit it was an excellent touch, even if it was a bit ghoulish. Whoever had designed the map actually broke the 4th wall and showed you the bloated, motionless abortions of the player's own careless treatment of Mario's tiny life. The bodies only floated straight up and down a tiny bit, as if to show the effects of a light current. It was genius, and I couldn't believe I might be the first and only person to ever see this. I toyed with the idea of taking more than the one screenshot I just presented to you, basically so all of you reading this could enjoy the secret map as much as I had, especially with this weird little touch. But without swimming, without kicking or moving in any way, the dead Marios started to come at me. Like torpedoes, their faces remained blank and blue and dead. But they moved with astounding speed. It did say abortions, by the way. I wasn't just saying that for no reason, or that wasn't like a misread. It's I don't know why it says that. Interesting vocabulary choice. They angled and positioned and worked all sorts of unique trajectories that left me almost nowhere to move. They continued coming at me and swarming and backing up to try again, and I just couldn't bring myself to let them touch me. I moved with more speed and skill than I'd ever exerted, frantically trying to keep Mario free of the drowning victims that seemed dead set on rocketing straight into him. When I finally reached the purple exit pipe you see above, there had to be 10 of those things right behind, pitching, turning, and chasing me. I entered the pipe as fast as I could, thankful that it worked properly and that Mario had out of that situation in a heartbeat. The corridor that followed was empty. Thankfully, it was just a blue underwater hallway of sorts with nothing to avoid or kill. It was boring and predictable like the game had been all these years, which brought back a sense of safety. At the end of the hallway, I came to a standard pair of doors you'd enter to face a final boss. Beside the doorway, a mushroom power-up. I didn't touch that shit. Going through the door was as you'd expect. The typical change of map views occurred, and Mario was standing on the ubiquitous bridge over boiling lava. Or had it been blood all along? When Mario walked out onto the bridge, however, there was no boss creature. Instead, Mario immediately looked to the side and froze. I couldn't control him anymore, he just stood there. Keep looking until you see it. I didn't even see it at first, so I don't expect you to notice it right away. If you still haven't spotted the thing, look in the third window from the left. Just for your information, that's not usually there. Mario seemed to regain his composure and looked back and forth slowly, surveying the room. There was still no boss, and I still couldn't control him, so I stopped trying and just watched. This went on for what seemed like forever, nothing happening. Then a familiar face walked in from the right, dressed in green, tall, and angry. It was Luigi. Mario recoiled in horror. It's difficult to say that without thinking how crazy it sounds, but Mario really reeled back with a sort of terror that was uncharacteristic for such a peppy, happy-go-lucky mascot like him. Then Luigi spoke. You thought Koopa worked alone? It was all connecting now. The messages scrawled on the walls, I hate you and why won't you die? Luigi. He's always been Mario's second banana. The player too, the one that doesn't get the princess in these early games. No matter how identical he is to Mario in skill set and ability, the tenaciousness and bravery at the end of the day, the game is Super Mario Bros. He's just the brother. I can read this again. No matter how identical he is to Mario in skill set and ability and tenaciousness and bravery, at the end of the day, the game is Super Mario Bros. And he's just the brother. How he must have hated Mario. Who among us wouldn't? Think about it. No matter what happens, Mario always comes back. No matter how many corpses he leaves littering the battlefield, he's always there once more to leap and cheer and get all the adoration. And Koopa hadn't worked alone? I didn't know what that meant at first, if anything. But again, you just have to think it through. How exactly does King Koopa consistently succeed in kidnapping the princess? From day one, from the original Super Mario Bros. Onward, it had always been an inside job. From the original Mario Bros. Onward. Still unable to control the character, I watched Mario simply cower in fear as Luigi leapt high into the air. As high as he could in Mario 2, the bastard child of the franchise. He jumped on the pathetic, weeping Mario again, and again, and again. It was powerless to stop it. When he was done, he seemed to look at Mario's limp body with this overwhelming rage. Then the bridge started to disappear. Soon Mario would be dead. As I looked on, I had an irrational thought. Would it be permanent? There's a few of these images. Give me a second. I have to get through all of these. Here, I'm just gonna save them in order, and then I'll flick through them like 1 second between. There's a lot of these images, just back to back, and I can't keep like saving the image and then flipping it in OBS over and over and over again. I can only do that so many times. Okay. Within an instant, as Luigi turned to seemingly strike a victory pose, like he'd beaten the level, Mario awkwardly got to his feet and took him by surprise. Fear and sadness and confusion had given way to anger, and Mario overpowered his brother with little effort. To this day, I'm still haunted by the final result of his wrathful reprisal. Oh God, no. There was the map's title. None of this was a glitch. None of it was a mistake. It wasn't a developer getting back at Nintendo, and it wasn't a ghost haunting a Nintendo cartridge. It was a planned, purposeful part of the Mario Bros. Mythos. If you beat the same level X number of times, a secret part of the world opened. and you learned that from the Mario Brothers through Mario Land, Luigi had secretly been working against you and was in fact facilitating the repeated abduction and abuse of the princess. But why? Money? Power? No, it was all there. Because he couldn't take not being the one in the spotlight, not being Mario himself. After Luigi died, well and truly died, Mario just sat on the edge of the bridge and wept. I was forced to watch this for minutes on end before the screen faded to black. I played the rest of the game through to see if anything had changed. Nothing else odd happened, as one would expect since this whole ordeal was supposed to be part of the actual full story. I couldn't access the whirlpool again. I'd seen the events once, and that was all I was apparently allowed. It was back to the game as usual, the same exact game I'd played since the 90s, and would probably continue to play for the rest of my days. Well, it was same. Well, it was the same, except for the final image. Ah! Good timing on the music. Yeah, it's... Ouch. It's okay, but it was meant to be as, you know, cliche as possible. It was never meant to be like a serious story, which is why I think it's even funnier that this went on to be like one of the best Mario creepypastas. And I think the main fact of why that is just because of how many screenshots it was provided, and, you know, how legitimate the screenshots seem, or at least seemed at the time. I could say with confidence that these screenshots look legitimate. However, it's... Not only was it meant to be written poorly, but it is also dated. So, any cliche, any, like, overused story element has further become dated from when it was written. However, I do appreciate the fact that there were screenshots to really make you believe that this thing was, you know, something you were supposed to take seriously. However, I don't think it was bad. I don't think it was good. However, given the fact it was meant to be a poorly written creepypasta, I always found that funny. You think Luigi would be a bit more crispy after dying to lava? Well, I don't know. Well, lava doesn't crisp you up, it just melts you. I mean, I would say that that's pretty accurate. Not really. I mean, you would have died. You would become one with the lava. However, I do like the melted face and the sprite work and everything. One of the comments on the pasta says, "It's over, Luigi. I have the higher ground." It's really good. Also, in the original pasta, in the original game that was linked with the creepypasta, it was pretty obvious and blatant that it was a troll pasta because there's a Ouija Easter egg. At the first part of the level, if you just swim further, like past the door, then you get a Ouija. There's a Ouija there. But, you know, all the cliches and the, oh god, no, and, you know, you fight Luigi. It's one of those pastas that not only was meant to be bad, but has also aged along with it. So, you kind of got both of those things going for you. However, it's fun to read. It's not fun to try to consistently display all those images. I think I have like 28 images now saved onto my computer. That's only the creepypasta that I am now going to have to delete off of my computer. Goodbye. I don't want those on my computer. Alright, I'm going to take this moment to take another break. I'm going to be right back, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Hopefully not that long. Maybe like 5 at most. Just need to finish some food, and I also need to take a bathroom break. I'll give you guys an ad break just to pass the time. I'm sure it won't take you that long, but you know, might as well. But I'll see you soon. It won't be too long. Let's turn off the rain sounds. Bye-bye. Whoop. Whoop. Hello. I'm back. Hopefully that wasn't too long. I'm, fingers crossed, but there's only so much you can do, or there's only so much time you have to do all that kind of stuff. My viewership is dying. Give me one more second. There we go. Muhahaha. All right. Fortunately for you guys, I only have 3 pastas left, and they're really not that long. I mean, for the most part. Oof, God, you know what? Actually, I'm gonna do that another time. We have 2 pastas left. We're only gonna be doing 2 creepypastas left. I will save the other one for another time. Now, first up is laughing, or not laughing, Eyeless Jack. This is an icon. Hello. My name is Mitch. I'm here to tell you guys about an experience I had. I don't know if it was paranormal or whatever stupid words people use to describe supernatural phenomena. I'm trying this again. One more time. Hello. My name is Mitch. I'm here to tell you guys about an experience I had. I don't know if it was paranormal or whatever stupid words people use to describe supernatural phenomena, but after that thing visited me, I believe in the paranormal trash now. A week after I moved in with my brother Edwin, after my house was foreclosed, I finished unpacking. Edwin liked the idea of me moving in since we had not seen each other after 10 years, so I was excited too. I soon fell asleep after I moved in. After that 1 week, I heard rustling noises coming from outside at about 1 in the morning. I thought it was a raccoon, so I ignored it and tried to fall asleep. The next morning, I told Edwin about it, and he agreed. The next night, however, I thought I heard my window opening and a loud thump, as if something entered my room. I darted up and looked out around my room, but I saw nothing. The next morning, Edwin dropped his coffee cup when he saw me. He held up a nearby mirror and I saw myself. I had a large gash in my left cheek. After I was rushed to the hospital, my doctor told me that I must have been sleepwalking, but then he showed me something that made my blood turn cold. He lifted up my shirt to reveal a sewn-up incision where my kidneys were. I started in his eyes, my eyes widening. You somehow lost your left kidney last night. We don't know how, though. I'm sorry, Mitch. My doctor told me. The next night was my breaking point. Around midnight, I woke up to see a truly horrifying sight. I was staring face to face with a creature with a black hoodie and dark blue mask with no nose or mouth staring down at me. The thing that scared me the most was that it had no eyes, just empty, black sockets. The creature also had some black substance dripping from its sockets. I grabbed the nearby camera on my mantle and took a picture. After the picture took, the creature lunged at me and I tried to claw open. After the picture took, the creature lunged at me and tried to claw open my chest to get to my lungs. I stopped it by kicking it in the face. As I ran out of my room, I grabbed my wallet. I would need the money. I ran out of my brother's house into the night. I eventually ended up in the woods near Edwin's house and tripped on a rock. I fell unconscious and woke up in the hospital. My doctor entered the room, the same one who treated me before. I have good news and bad news, Mitch, my doctor started. The good news is that you had minor injuries and your parents are going to pick you up. I sighed with relief. The bad news is that your brother has been killed by some thing. Sorry. My parents took me back to Edwin's house to collect my remaining belongings, which I did. Upon entering my room, I was scared, but remained calm. I grabbed my camera, then stopped dead in my tracks. In the hallway leading to my room, I saw Edwin's body, and something small lying next to it. I picked up the small thing and entered my parents' car, not mentioning Edwin's corpse. I looked at the thing I had picked up and nearly vomited. I was holding my stolen half-eaten kidney with some black substance on it. Author's later opinion on this story. On November 17th, 2014, the story was removed from the main site per the request of the original author, and this was said on one of his blogs on the wiki. Months later, after posting this story, I've decided to comment on my own pasta, as my opinion has drastically changed since then. I'm not very fond of this anymore, and I'll agree that it's awful. I agree with a recent commenter on this that said that since Jeff has been removed, this should be off the wiki too. This is because of quality standards that were not followed here. I'm actually ashamed of myself that I wrote this, and I wish I did a better job when I decided to write this. At least he's self-aware, you know? But yeah, not very good. However, it's not the worst. I will say that much. The story is not bad. It's just got a few parts that just come out of nowhere and kind of make it feel stale. Like, what's the point of the kidneys? Like, there's no... Like, why kidneys? Why couldn't it have been, like, an arm or a leg or what? It could have been nothing, honestly. And the whole thing with, oh, quickly I went to go get my camera and take a picture before this thing tried to kill me. It's just very... Just gotta do what I can to make this picture worth it. And the picture was good. The picture is really great. The picture is terrifying, honestly. I really like the picture. It's, again, one of those cases where the pictures and the art and the community surrounding it is just so much better than the pasta itself. But you know what? The author is self-aware, and I appreciate that. It's not a Sonic.exe situation. He has a refined taste for kidneys. All right. Hey, well, we have one more story, and I'm not going to turn on any music for this one. I just want it to be as told. This one is supposed to be genuinely good. Like, this isn't a crappy pasta, this isn't a shit pasta, this isn't a troll pasta. This is meant to terrify you. And I myself am really excited to be reading this. However, the name is something that kind of makes me steer a little bit away, but I know it's not going to be bad. This is... I've heard many accounts of people saying this is a good story. Many accounts of people saying this is not so much realistic as it is, you know, believable. I will go to sleep to this pasta. Okay, you might fall asleep to this pasta. This is called the Pancake Family. That pale, huh? Jesus, I better look. No, not messing up yet. That pale, huh? Jesus, I bet I look like a ghost. I feel like I've bled out 2 gallons. What? No, not a scratch. Sorry to ramble, it's just that I'm... what's the word for it? Detached. Strange feeling. Seen it enough times in the field. Sort of figured if I was ever going to experience it myself, then I would have experienced it by now. Hell of a thing. I feel like I'm floating outside of my body. Just cut the cord and I'd float away. Did you see the crime scene? Don't look at the pictures. Don't even touch the file. You'll thank me. I can't get my knees to stop rattling. Is that why you're holding on to your coffee like that? I'm shaking the table, aren't I? Hold on a second, let me back up my chair. There, that's better. We've got to go official now, Hob. Can you confirm for the record that you're waiving your right to an attorney? No, I'm still not interested in an attorney. I mean, yes, I'm waiving my rights. Sorry. And I'm as sound of mind as I'll ever be. Are you sure? Yes. Let the record show that Detective Hobson Millgate, retired, has waived his right to an attorney. I won't need a lawyer after the DA stops puking and considers taking it public. They're not showing that to a jury. Are you ready to begin? No, but I'll talk anyway. What led you to the crime scene on the night in question? Would you believe I was planning a fishing trip before this started? Never mind. Hold on, I'm thinking. It's hard to organize it. Never been on this side of the interrogation table before. I guess it started with the reporter. Name of Bamer. She contacted me a week ago by email and claimed she had new information on the Driscoll murders. I was the lead investigator. The case had gone unsolved for 20 years. Cold as ice. Frankly, I thought it was all bullshit at first. You know how that can be. Most of the time, it's not even on purpose. Everyone thinks they know something that will crack a case wide open. Theories are easy when you don't have to check them against evidence. The Driscoll murders were a big story around these parts. Lots of interest. Lots of press. Over the years, I must have got a couple hundred shit theories. When I retired, I handed the investigation over to Detective Carroll, but I didn't want him to be bothered. I know he's busy with the recent gang activity. I figured I'd check it out as a courtesy. I wasn't expecting it to go anywhere. I met her for lunch at Puryear's Cafe. Good-looking blonde gal. Professional, so she didn't fit the typical profile of a hoaxer or conspiracy theorist. Uh-oh. Dropping frames. Wow, we are dropping a lot of frames. What is going on? Okay, we're coming back too. Wow, that was bad. Alright. We're back now, for sure, I can tell. Got full 4 bars now. Let me get back into storytelling mood. Just want to make sure you guys are hearing all of the story. I met her for lunch at Puryear's Cafe. Good-looking blonde gal, professional, so she didn't fit the typical type of hoaxer or conspiracy theorist. One more time. I met her for lunch at Puryear's Cafe. Cafe. I met her for lunch at Puryear's Cafe. Good-looking blonde gal, professional. Holy shit! I got this. I met her for lunch at Puryear's Cafe. Good-looking blonde gal, professional, so she didn't fit the typical profile of a hoaxer or conspiracy theorist. Not that I put too much faith in profiles. She also might have been one of those creepy gals that gets off on death. God knows I've dealt with those too. I still thought she might be pulling my leg, or maybe she had been fooled too, but she had a file with her. Looked legit. Contained what appeared to be a confession by the Driscoll. Well, he wasn't a murderer, was he? I really do wish he had been, you know. It would have been so much better for everyone.
Can you please fill us in on the relevant details of the Driscoll case?
Let's see, it would have been 20 years ago now. Thinking of all those years, I mean, 20 goddamn years. That's a long time to be...
Take your time, Hob.
Thanks. The Driscolls were a family of 6 out in the suburbs. Upper middle class, father was an attorney. Mother ran her own business selling pottery out of the house. 4 children, all high school age and below. Good kids, honor roll, no criminal records to speak of. The oldest son was caught smoking dope at his high school once. Nothing much besides that, just the typical stuff you find when you look at people too closely. They disappeared October 13th, 1994. No trace was found of the bodies. The mystery in seeing how it was right around Halloween is probably why the press went so crazy. You still see it show up on some of those unsolved mystery shows. The whole family disappeared and no one saw a thing. No one knew where they went. A neighbor lodged a sound complaint, which is how we got involved. There was an alarm going off and they figured it might be an intruder or something. We dispatched a vehicle. When no one answered the door, the patrolman went in to investigate. There were obvious signs of a struggle in the youngest daughter's bedroom. The bed had been flipped over and the sheets were torn. The alarm was a carbon monoxide detector. We found elevated concentrations of carbon monoxide in the fabric of all the bed sheets except the youngest daughter's. We couldn't have known to look without the alarm. The neighbor indicated the alarm had been sounding for over a day, and he'd been unable to get anyone to answer the door during that time. We also found several aluminum canisters and some hoses in a dumpster a few blocks away. At the time, we assumed the Driscolls had been gassed and disposed of at a different location. Excepting, of course, the daughter who woke up at the end and put up a struggle. The investigation gave no leads. Of course, our first thought was that the father did it. We checked it out, but he didn't have motive. No leads to follow up on. Same with the mother. Surviving family checked out clean too. The father had a few clients who might have had motive, but the means weren't there. He was a divorce lawyer, but not for anybody who could have taken out the entire family without leaving evidence. There was a chemistry teacher who lived 3 blocks away, and we investigated him for a while because of the canisters, but he alibied out. Same with the dentist who lived nearby. The wife had an online flirtation with some kid out in England, but nothing adulterous, and he wasn't even in the country at the time of the murder. We settled, unhappily, on the idea of a random killing. Hardest pieces of shit to catch when there's no pattern like that. We must have sunk tens of thousands of man-hours into this case, chasing down leads. Nothing ever came of any of it. We did track down the canisters. They were stolen from a laboratory 10 miles away. There was no security footage. We couldn't find any leads on the thief. After 6 months with no repeat attacks, the investigation went cold. The Driscolls had been knocked out and abducted. Like I said, no one ever found the bodies. Who's to say they hadn't just run off? Until, well, I'd rather only talk about that once.
What can you tell us about how the confession wound up with Miss Bamer?
She'd been following the case for some years, both personally and as a reporter. Like I said, it captured the imagination of a lot of people. Even seemingly normal folks thought it could have been aliens, ghosts, or demons. Miss Bamer published a retrospective on the murders given the 20-year anniversary. It caused a renewed interest, which happened from time to time. As soon as I declined to comment, citing lack of new evidence, I remembered her asking for my quote, though, which is why I accepted the lunch meeting. After publication of the article, Miss Bamer claimed that she had been sent a file. She wished to have me authenticate. The most pertinent part of the file was a confession. I assured Miss Bamer that such false documents are not uncommon, especially on older cases like this, and that I'd personally heard 24 confessions of the Driscoll murders. But she was insistent. Once I felt she wasn't trying to pull off a hoax or getting off on the idea of talking about a murder, I agreed to the meeting. She stated the confession had been mailed to her in the same envelope she showed to me when we met for lunch.
Can you describe its contents?
Old newspaper clippings outlining the progress of my investigation. They seemed appropriately yellowed, so I guessed they were from the trophy book of the perpetrator. There were also 6 photos alleging to be of the individual members of the Driscoll family, as well as several other photos of the facility where they had been taken. Look at that. My hands won't stop shaking, see? I'm trying as hard as I can, and I just can't make it happen. I'll have to ask the paramedic for a sedative when I'm done with the statement. I don't think I'll be able to sleep otherwise. No, I'm fine for now. I don't want anything to interfere with my recollection for your recording. Just carrying it around in my head is like... Sorry. I'll stay focused. The photos were of the Driscoll family, of course. At the time, I didn't know that. The photos had aged poorly, and they could have been of anyone. It was very hard to distinguish features, however. Given the elaborate nature of the file, I figured it did warrant a further look. As to the confession letter, well, it was brief. It gave an address. That's the first thing I noticed. Couldn't locate the address online, which meant it had to be old. The confession letter said, "Stop printing lies. I never killed anyone. It just took a while to get them ready for breakfast." There was no signature. I just remembered something. God damn it. We got sent a breakfast menu a month after the disappearance. Someone had drawn a red circle around a picture of pancakes. The letter said, "They're not dead. They're getting ready for breakfast." Just put it in the junk lead file. Oh, God.
Detective Milgate, do you need a moment?
Oh, God. How could I have known? We tried to track down that menu. We could never find out where it had come from. It wasn't any place local. The identifying information had been cut out. I don't know what else we could have done. I just... Dear God.
Why did you decide to personally investigate the location mentioned in the letter?
Sorry. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't a hoax. I still wasn't convinced. I've had 20 years of people sending me fake evidence. I guess maybe the case captured my imagination too. I always figured one day I'd think of something I'd overlooked and solve the whole thing. It felt unbelievable to have someone dump the answer in my lap. I needed to see with my own 2 eyes. Miss Bamer had pinpointed the location with city records, but neither of us was sure if it was still there. It was an abandoned industrial building. Last time it had a valid mailing address was 50 years ago. It might have caved in for all we knew. I think I also wanted to be the one to crack it. Whether or not it was dumped in my lap, that case was hung over my head for 20 years. Miss Bamer and I agreed to meet there the following morning.
Can you describe the crime scene?
Yes. It was an industrial building, as I stated. Approximately 120 feet long by maybe 45 feet wide. It was a wooden structure, and at first the condition seemed to match the neighboring buildings. However, I noticed the facade had been recently patched in a few locations. Further investigation also revealed that the entrance had been chained and locked. My understanding was that it used to be a sheet metal shop. At least, excuse me, is there a garbage can? I might vomit. Thank you. Sorry, I thought I was empty. No, I want to get this done with. Then I'm gonna want that sedative. I could smell something from inside the building, very faintly. I figured that would count as probable cause. Not that I need it as a civilian, but you never forget the way a corpse smells. They were bad enough, they had that same smell. I hadn't forgotten how to pick a lock, so I let myself inside. You know, I really do wish they had been corpses. I really do wish he had been a serial killer. I really do. Please say you believe me.
I do. Can you describe the interior of the building?
I'm trying to focus through this. I really am, I'm sorry. It's just that I'd like to go to sleep after this for a very long time. Is the paramedic here? Is the sedative ready? Thank goodness. The warehouse had not been as abandoned as we were previously led to believe. The interior had a hallway with 6 rooms. The construction was old, but visibly newer than the rest of the building. The walls between each room had been soundproofed. There were no windows to the outside or doorways between the rooms themselves. The only access was through the hallway. I tried to make Miss Bamer leave at this point. You see, the smell was stronger inside. You could feel it, the smell. Like a grit getting stuck in your nose. Like bits of sand all over your skin. The rooms contained presses. Hydraulic presses. 4-foot by 8-foot custom presses. I couldn't figure out what they were at first because they were hovering over what looked like hospital beds. There were IV bags in each room as well as other medical equipment. That's how he kept them alive for so long, of course. I think I might be seeing black spots.
Do you need to take a break?
The idea of having to start this again is worse than the idea of finishing it.
Then please describe your next course of action.
The building was obviously an active crime scene. I had no doubt at this point. I was in the lair of what I believed to be a serial killer. I tried to tell Miss Bamer to leave several times. She refused on the grounds that it would not be right to leave me on my own. There wasn't much time to make an issue out of it. My opinion of her was that she was a bit nosy, but basically alright, and I didn't think she'd be a liability if she stayed out of my way. I had to make a judgment call as to whether or not I should proceed on my own in case the family was somehow impossibly still alive and perhaps in danger, or if I should leave and call for backup. I told my wife where I was going previously, so I knew my absence would be noted and reported if the worst happened. Neither of us could get cell reception. Sorry, I'm rambling. It was then that I heard not even a gasp. It was like a gasp, but not really. I don't want to describe it any more than that. There was a sound. It drew my attention further on. I had to act. That's all that matters. There were some stairs at the very far end of the warehouse descending into a basement. I told Miss Bamer to remain behind and pulled my service revolver. I had a flashlight on my person as well, and I turned it on as I descended into the basement. The basement had been hand dug, maybe even over the course of the entire 20-year disappearance, I don't know. The floor was dirt, and there was a tunnel that retreated back far enough that it had been supported with struts at regular intervals. When my flashlight first illuminated the stack, I wish they'd been dead. I wish he'd been a serial killer.
Please take a moment.
After I recovered, my first thought was, thank God they are all dead. I'm 64 years old, for Christ's sake. I'm not a man who can forget things anymore. When you're young, you have this sense that you're invincible and that you're never gonna die. I don't have that to protect me anymore. Look at me, I'm whining. When they had that done to them, it's my fault. I should have found them, saved them somehow.
I'm sorry, Hob. I've got to ask, can you describe the scene?
Yeah. I can. I didn't know what I was looking at first. Hell, I still don't. It was, well, it was a stack, maybe 2 feet thick. From the stink and coloring, it was obviously made of flesh. I thought maybe he'd hacked them up and stacked them into pieces. That would have been bad enough. The first thing that alerted me to the truth was the eyeball. On the top of the stack was a perfectly round eyeball in the middle of a socket that had been distorted to the size of a saucer. That's when I realized what I was looking at was 20 goddamn years of torture, basically. He had the entire Driscoll family under those presses for 20 years, keeping them alive on an IV drip, increasing the pressure on them so very slowly that their bodies had time to adapt, until they've been flattened like pancakes. He squished them by about 1/4 of an inch every year for 20 years. Then he pulled them out when they were too broken and wretched to move, without any chance of recovery, and stacked them on top of each other. Got no idea what for. I don't want to know. I was still thinking, thank God they're all dead, when the one on top started gasping again.
What did they say?
Nothing at first. It couldn't speak without help. I think it would have been Avery Driscoll. Not that I could tell much about the gender or the age, but the hair was blonde where there was hair. The head was a mess of scars. I think the son of a bitch who did this must have removed parts of their skulls. I've got no idea how he got their heads so flat. Otherwise, not as flat as the rest of the bodies, but flat. Who the hell knows how their brains handled that? Their lips were punctured by teeth everywhere. After the presses had flattened out their noses, I guess. Avery was 14 when he disappeared. I've stopped shaking. Goddamn weird the way our bodies work, isn't it? What else? There was a machine, a sort of pump. I followed a hose with my flashlight and realized everyone in the stack was hooked up to the pump. I don't think they could breathe on their own, you see. Not after a while. There simply wasn't enough volume for their lungs to inflate. There was some sort of opening cut right into each of their chests. There's a switch on the pump. I don't know why I pressed it. I was in a panic. I wanted to do something. Maybe some stupid part of me thought that if I switched it on, they would inflate and be okay. I switched it. It increased the volume of air to the topmost hose. I could hear the pump working harder, which is when Avery Driscoll started to scream. He begged me. He begged me to kill him. He said other things too. He didn't make much sense. Kept yelling Bane of Error over and over again. Something about the family too. Didn't understand it. He was in pain, and I would hope he had gone insane several years previously.
Oh my God.
My thoughts exactly. I didn't know what to do. He wouldn't stop screaming. I believed he was convinced I was his torturer. A closer look at his eye revealed that it was mostly a mess of white scar tissue. He was as blind as a bat. You know, I spoke with some burn victim once. I spoke with some burn victims once. They told me that they had managed to find meaning and purpose again after a while. I don't know how anyone in the Driscoll family could have done that. I stated my name. I told him I was a detective. I told him I was there to help. I repeated it over and over again, knowing of course there was nothing that anyone anywhere could have done to help. Miss Bamer arrived, drawn by the sound. Before she saw the stack, she told me that I had screamed and she had come to help, but I do not remember having done so. Nevertheless, she arrived. When she saw the stack and screamed, but I was intent on Avery Driscoll. He was able to hear. He became lucid for a few moments. It was a strain to understand what he said, but I'll never be able to forget it. Please kill me. It hurts. I don't want to be a monster. Please kill me and tell my family I died a long time ago. I don't know if they're still looking for me. Don't let them know what happened to me. Please kill me. He could still cry, and he did, although his tear ducts were too deformed for it to be noticeable. I should have forced Miss Bamer to leave. That is the only action in the matter which I regret more than failing to solve the case 20 years ago. Not just for her own sake, but for what she did next. I don't think she could have wounded them any more deeply if she'd tried. She took away the last comfort any of them had in that stack. You see, they had not been able to speak to one another for 20 years. She said, "That's all of them, isn't it? That's the entire Driscoll family. They're all alive in there, the whole family." For 20 years, each member of the Driscoll family had been unaware their fellow inmates were the other members of their family. They'd all been holding out hope their family was okay. All of them dreaming someone out there loved them and would free them from suffering. Do you know what the screams of 6 people tortured over 2 decades, smashed down to a width of 4 inches, sounds like when they're all stacked up on top of one another? It sounds like the gates of hell swinging open.
I think that is enough, Detective Milgate.
Not yet. It was my mistake. I should have tried harder. Tracked down that lead. Maybe that's what they meant, screaming that it was my error, so it was my responsibility. I shot them. Mercy's hard, but I owed it to them. I am the one that failed to save them. It only took 1 bullet to go all the way through. I emptied my revolver, though, to make sure that they didn't linger. To give them that final piece. It was the only kindness I had given to them. We left and called for backup after that. Neither Miss Bamer nor I wished to remain with the bodies. I elected not to follow the crime scene investigators back into the basement. I asked if I could make my statement and leave, and after one of them saw what I had seen, they agreed. Yeah, I have my sedative now.
Yes, of course.
Thank you. Please show in the paramedic. I'll roll up my sleeve. My wife has diabetes, so I'm well aware of the routine. Oh, and please make sure you have the same courtesy available for Miss Bamer. She seemed to have it worse than me after. Poor woman couldn't even throw up or cry.
Of course. Do you know where she is now? She told the lead at the crime scene she was going home, but we haven't been able to reach her.
Did you try the paper?
Which paper?
The Daily World.
Are you sure? There's no one by the last name of Bamer on staff with the Daily World.
Damn. That was good. That's like a breath of fresh air after all those previous creepypastas. Wow, that was nice. Whew. I just want to take a moment to point out something that I noticed. And there are a couple other comments that are in the Reddit thread kind of like parroting the same thing that I was thinking. Bane of Error. Bane of Error? Say that really fast. Bane of Error. Bamer. Bamer. It was Bamer. And she couldn't be found after the investigation. And there's no one with the last name Bamer with the paper she claimed to be a part of. It was Bamer the whole time. She came there just to scope out the scene, make sure that everyone got to saw the atrocities she'd committed. Damn. I really liked the format of that one. It was investigator and investigatee. It was nice and fun getting to go back and forth between voice lines without having to like explain a course of action. It was all written as if it was like the transcription of a police investigation, which is, I believe, exactly what it is. That was awesome.
I really do also like the kind of body horror aspect of, you know, the fact that they were squashed to pancakes, but only slow enough that they could survive being eventually 4 inches tall, which I think is really crazy. Oh, my headphones have been off this whole time. You haven't even been hearing the rain sounds. I didn't even realize. Shoot, does that mean you didn't hear the music in the last creepypasta either? Oh man. Oh, now I'm a little disappointed, but you know what? It's probably better that it was just my voice. That one was really nice. I like that one. And the fact she refused to leave, too. She refused to leave. She wanted to take a look. She wanted to peep the horrors of her own creation. And she wanted the reaction from the investigator. She wanted that sick, twisted reaction. That's great. That's amazing. It's, you know, just believable enough that, you know, I'd be none the wiser. Well, I mean, obviously it's fake, and obviously this would never happen, but, you know, from a horror standpoint, you know, that's just believable enough to, you know, kind of keep me chilled. And I really liked doing the voice acting, too. I liked, you know, getting to voice the 2 characters and getting to voice, you know, like an actual character. Maybe I should look into voice acting. Haha, just kidding. I suck. I mean, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, you don't really kind of, you take it for granted until, you know, you're actually the one doing it. But I thought I did an okay job. I gave some shake to his voice. Really made it, you know, as believable as possible. Tried my best, you know. But that is where I'm gonna have to end it. It's been 3 hours. I think I'm gonna end it there. Would not want to overstay my welcome at all. I hope you guys liked it. With me, I have a Google Doc full of several, many creepypastas. Either bad or good. Most of them bad, but I've got plenty for the future. So if you ever want me to, you know, read more, I got just about as much as you would need. As much as any sane person would need. Most of them bad, trust me. Alright, that is where I'm gonna end it. Thank you guys for showing up. A little lower in the viewer base tonight, but that's okay. That's kind of what you get with a part 2. That's alright. I like being able to title it ASMR, because I get to, you know, work my voice into the whispery storytelling voice. You know, maybe eventually I'll fully branch off into ASMR. You know, I could do some gentle ear blowing, or I could do some taps. I don't know. I'd have to find my own niche to fill with ASMR. I'd really have to, you know, cause I wouldn't, you know, make a living off of tapping and blowing on my microphone. It would have to be, you know, more than that. But anyway, regardless, more of these in the future, and I will be streaming on Sunday, to be announced. I'm not too sure what I will be doing, but, you know, we'll figure out when we get there. You know about as much as what I'm doing on on Sunday as I know. But yeah, thank you. I value your guys' viewership always. It means a lot to me. Mwah. Bye-bye.